Welcome in, Bronco Nation. We are rearing up for a new season, getting ready for spring camp. And going into that, we're going to look at all of our new recruits. So let's start off today by looking at the QBs. It was a big talking point this last year, Madsen versus Cutforth discussion. It seemed like Cutforth, when he first came in, had some issues and then got pretty good. He started really solving those issues quickly, although he does still have a few to overcome. Madsen really kind of saw a little bit of a decline last year. He got hurt and kind of struggled throughout the year. Was never really able to fully come back. So I'm curious to see what he looks like coming into this new year, fully healthy with an off season to develop a little bit more on his shortcomings. Today, we're going to look at the new QBs that we brought in from high school recruiting. There's two very touted QBs. One is Jackson Taylor, and the other one is Cash Herrera. I'm pretty big on both of them, but especially Jackson Taylor. I think he was an early commit, which is always a good sign, and he seems pretty motivated to be a Bronco. I really like his personality. I like his mindset. He's very driven. He seems like a leader to me, and he seems like a smart kid. I think as a quarterback, you need somebody who's pretty clever and can think through things pretty quickly. And he definitely seems like that type of kid. With Cash Herrera, I haven't really heard him talk as much. He hasn't done as many interviews. He's a little bit of a later commit, but he's very highly touted. And him and Jackson Taylor actually had the same QB coach, so they kind of will have some similarities in their play. A lot of people say Cash Herrera is a little bit better. He was actually rated just a little bit higher. I think they both have their strengths and they both have their weaknesses. So we're going to look at the film today. We're going to break it down a little bit and see who we think might be able to take that backup spot. So we're going to start here with Jackson Taylor. We're going to look at just their senior seasons so that we can see the most up-to-date footage of their play. So let's jump over here and take a look at what we have. So right off the bat, we see something that makes both of these players pretty good, but Jackson Taylor definitely is showing it here. So he gets pressured right away. We're getting pressure from the right, and he sees that, and he actually has pressure coming from the left as well. And he's able to diagnose it and find an opening to extend the play. And while he's moving, while he's avoiding this pressure, he's still looking downfield and finds this receiver wide open and makes a great throw right on the spot for the touchdown. And this is one thing with both Cutforth and Madsen. And I mean, every quarterback's going to have this issue from time to time. But when they get pressure, sometimes they like to focus on the pressure a little bit much. When Cutforth first came in, that was one of the really big issues with him. He would come in, he would get pressure, and he would completely abandon the play and be so focused and looking around at the pressure coming and how to escape it that the play would kind of fall apart. And he would either get sacked or he would try to lose them, but just, the play wasn't going anywhere at that point. And so it's nice to see that even from a high school standpoint, this guy is able to diagnose the pressure, move out of it, and while doing this, still looking downfield and finding a clutch throw. So really nice to see there. Now let's look at this next one. Fakes the handoff, avoids once again some pressure, and still finds this guy wide open. I really like this play. I think this is a heads up move right here to avoid that pressure. A nice little sidestep. And once again, he's got his eyes downfield as he's avoiding the pressure. Now this one, he doesn't really avoid pressure, but he does a really good job of staying in the pocket. This guy starts to get past his lineman a little bit, and this guy on the other side as well, and he steps up into a more protected position just to give himself enough time to make the throw. So I think he's got really good pocket awareness. And obviously he has a good arm. We see right here, pretty dime throws for the most part. He can throw it deep. He's pretty accurate. Like that right there, I really like. It's a nice little sidearm pass. This is something where it helps to get around defenders. Like if there's a lineman right in your face trying to swat the ball, throwing it sidearm can get him past that. And it also one thing I personally like about sidearm throwing like this when they're accurate with it is people downfield. Like, let's say he's a little bit shorter than Lyman, right? And he's not short. I think he's like 6'3", so he's a decent sized quarterback, like 6'2", 6'3", something like that. But when you throw overhand, your hand a lot of times can be showing to the DBs, and they can see, oh, he's passing it, and they can be starting to prepare for that. When you throw sidearm, a lot of times you can keep the exposure of your arm underneath the heads of the linemen, and it's harder for the DBs to read when the pass is coming out until they see the ball flying, and it gives them just that split second less of a chance to respond. And I mean, I don't know if a lot of people think of sidearm throws like that. It's not something that he does all the time, but he's able to do it. And he's able to throw it accurately like that. And I think that can make a difference in those clutch situations. We see here moving once again, sees the pressure coming and is able to backpedal and just buy himself just enough time. But as he's doing that, he's still constantly looking downfield. Throwing on the run very well right there. That's something that, we see from Madsen every now and then. Sometimes he's less consistent with it. But we can see even out of high school, Jackson Taylor here is, able to find the openings, avoid the pressure, stay in the pocket, and make the throws on the run. So he definitely has that potential. Now, of course, these are the highlights, so it's not happening every single time, probably, but um, he definitely has the ability to do that, and they're going to develop him and develop all of those things. Once again, a lot of these passes are on the run in some sense, like this one here. He's on the move this whole time and throwing pretty accurately. Now, let's look at this one. This one is a great throw for one reason to me. It's a crossbody throw. It's one of the harder things to do as a QB. Even in the NFL, people are like, oh, well, that was a crossbody throw. It's really difficult, and he does a great job of doing a very quick plant. And really, when he plants, he's still moving. He just gets the leg around just enough to set up to throw. And right on the money. I mean, very accurate. A nice high point throw there. I think if this was a college defender, it might get swatted down, like this guy wasn't really, I don't think, looking too much. I think it could have been thrown a little higher, especially in college, where our guys can jump a little higher and do those high point catches. But great job of getting it over the defender enough for his guy to make the catch. Nice corner throw on that last one, too. Once again, man, just avoiding pressure so well. He's not what I would call like a dual threat or anything like that. Although he can make some runs, and I think we see some here in a little bit. But he's so mobile in the pocket at avoiding pressure, recognizing it and avoiding it. It gives him enough time to extend plays. And once again, he's looking downfield the whole time. So he can extend those plays just long enough to make something out of it when the pass blocking breaks down. That's a good example of a nice run play where he saves the pass and ends up running for it. But he does a good job of breaking a couple of tackles even here, staying up. Good balance when he does get touched. Pretty good deep throw there. I think think his arm, if I remember correctly, we're going to look at Cash Herrera here pretty soon. But if I remember, I think Cash Herrera has a little bit stronger arm than Jackson Taylor. Um, but Jackson Taylor just looks already as a high schooler so refined in his pocket awareness, and just his playmaking ability. And I mean, all of these are pretty accurate. Like that, man. That's impressive to me. He's got that throw on the run where I mean it's accurate. He looks so comfortable doing it, you know? And I think that's something that's hard to do for a lot of QBs. And he just looks so great doing it. So I've always been so excited for Jackson Taylor. I think we might even see him come in, either him or Cash Herrera or both of them. We might see him come in late games if we're pretty far ahead. I still think they're probably going to end up starting Madsen, but a part of me hopes one of these guys is able to overtake him because I definitely see potential in these guys. And I think if they're developing them as a starter mindset right from the get go, they're going to really make a big jump this year and they're going to come in hitting hard. Um, but if not, I think if we get ahead in some games, I would not be surprised if him and Cash Herrera make some appearances. Even if they're redshirting, they have 4 games each to come in, and it would not surprise me at all if they do that to get some legs under them to get them a little bit of experience in the college world. Nice deep throw there. Nice quick one. I think like right here, he kind of, I mean, it's a slant, so there's not too much to read, but he is able to look downfield and read pretty quickly that at least that guy's open. Slants are probably the best example of that, but now this is one thing that I do like about some of his footage is if we look at this last play here, if we watch the play action, he fully turns around. And this is something Boise likes to play from under center a little bit, more of a pro style offense. And that's difficult, especially for QBs that are used to playing out of the pistol or something like that, where they never really have to turn their back very much to the defense. When you are coming out of under center and you do a play action, which we love to do, um, you fully turn around. And at that point, you can't see what the defense is doing. So, yeah, they give you this 3 high safety look, right? But as soon as you turn around, that shifts. Maybe these safeties drop down and start manning up some of the wide receivers or something. And as that all shifts around, he's completely facing away from them. When he turns back around, he's able to diagnose this and immediately take a look at what's going on and get the shot off fairly quickly. And I think even college, a lot of times, this is one thing when college QBs go to the NFL, why a lot of them struggle at first, even if they were great in a college setting. It's because out of college, a lot of times they play out of the pistol a lot, where they're not turning away from the defense very much. And in the NFL, we see a lot of that pro style where they're under the center and the play actions, they fully turn around. And those play actions are much more convincing to the defense. So it's a good thing. But Boise tends to play that way a little bit more, which is good for their QB development as if they want to move on. And this guy is already getting used to fully turning around and rolling out the other way. And that turning around type of a fake handoff, a play action, is a little more difficult. And it's nice to see him already experimenting with that because we know he's going to be able to adapt to our offense a little bit faster. He's going to be able to read those defenses a little bit quicker, as he comes into college. There's always going to be a little bit of a learning curve just due to the pace, but I think that bodes well. Like I said, like a lot of his deep passes, I feel like aren't quite as deep as some of the Cash Herrera ones. What we'll see with Cash Herrera here in a little bit is the ball kind of floats out of his hand a little more. Um, you know, The ball looks a little heavier coming out of Jackson Taylor's hand, but so his arm's just not quite as strong as Jackson Herrera. Although that can change in an off season with some weightlifting and stuff, so you never know. But his accuracy is there, and his ability to read defenses is there. His scramble ability is definitely there. Just his pocket awareness to me is very, very good for a high school kid, and he just looks very. I don't know. He looks very put together in the pocket. He looks like he knows what he's doing. He looks experienced, like he's been there before. He doesn't look as much like a high school kid as some of these guys. But yeah, just his pocket presence really impresses me. His scramble ability, once again, I think his ability to read that pressure, respond to it, and all the while looking downstream. That was one thing. Like I said, Cutforth had an issue with, and one of the reasons why I think Cutforth had a lot of criticisms when he first started was because of that. He would get any kind of pressure and he would abandon the play downfield and be so concerned with what he was doing and where he was going. He looked frazzled and frantic about it. And that slowly dropped away as he got a little more pocket time, a little more experience. But that it was nice to see him improve that so quickly. That was one of the things I last year was really touting him about. Yeah, when he came in, he didn't look so good, but he started fixing stuff very quickly. Within 2 3 games, he was looking like a completely different quarterback. And I mean, that's saying something about him. But with like Jackson Taylor, he already kind of has that coming in. And like I said, it may not look quite as good or as polished as first game because of the pace and all of that he's adjusting to. But I don't think it'll take him very long. I'll tell you that much. So now we're going to switch over to Cash Herrera. This is our second high school recruit. Both of them, I believe, were 3 stars, but they're like right on the border of being 4-star. So I just consider them 4-star quarterbacks. I think they were like 89 and like 90 is a 4-star. So they were right there. But I think Cash Herrera here was rated just a little bit higher than Jackson Taylor. But I mean, to me, they're pretty much neck and neck. They just have different things that they excel at. So let's take a look. Once again, he's got that deeper arm. I mean, that was a long throw, and we really didn't see that much from Jackson Taylor's footage. He had some long passes, but nothing like that. So I think Cash Herrera has a little bit of a stronger arm. Obviously, he can still scramble. Let's watch that last one again. That was quite a scramble. Starts moving, cuts up in front of that guy. So let's see if we can slow this down here. Nope, we can't, but that's okay. So he comes over. We see this guy right here broke in and is pressuring. He actually moves up in front of him and then back around and is able to keep avoiding them, just scrambling and saving time enough to actually make a play and make a throw. Once again, like I said, even in that play right there, you can just tell the way it comes out of his hand. It floats more. He definitely has a little bit more of a powerful arm. Great runner as well. He's got the scramble ability with him also. I will say the scrambling to me, he looks more almost like a dual threat type scrambler, where when he starts to scramble, it looks like he's looking. I mean, he still looks downfield, but he's kind of a little more in run mode. He does like a switch to run mode. And then if he needs to throw, he'll set up again. Jackson Taylor looks a little more refined in his scramble. He can move around the pocket while he's like looking and throwing on the run and stuff. And we'll still see him throw on the run a little bit, but nice, nice hurdle there. But he's got a little bit more of that dual threat style, where when he starts to run, like he can, I would expect him to actually take it more than I would with Jackson Taylor. Jackson Taylor is more of the scramble and throw type guy, even though he can run it. I'm not saying he can't, but I think Cash Herrera is a little more predisposed to run it, just take it himself. Ooh, almost swatted on that one. That was close. But once again, I mean, Cash Herrera's got an arm on him. That's for sure. Not that Jackson Taylor doesn't. I just think Cash Herrera definitely has a little more power, a little more lift under the ball. I think the ball also floats a little more, if that makes sense. I think when it's coming down for the receivers, it probably feels a little softer for them to catch. Not like not physically on their hands when it hits them, but just like the way it's approaching them, it's easier to read. So I think that's a benefit for him. Like this is a great throw, and as far as a high point goes, like this is to me like a college style high point. You know what I mean? Where it's like if he had a guy right next to him, it's high enough that he's actually up and over him a little bit more. Once again, and right there we see he's able to throw on the run, but I will say this throw is not nearly as accurate when he's throwing on the run and not as I don't know, not as sophisticated looking as Jackson Taylor. You know, it's a little low. It's not quite as accurate. He's able to do it for sure. And even the way he moves when he scrambles is a little more like a dual threat. He's looks like he's about ready to take off, you know what I mean? And just the way he's juking people and spinning and stuff, he looks like a more of a running quarterback to me. While Jackson Taylor looks more like a pocket passer, he's able to really move and avoid things in the pocket a little bit more. Um, that was a nice one on the run. That was pretty good. Nice save there. I think both of them are very capable dual threats in a way, but Cash Herrera seems a little more of that dual threat running type quarterback to me, just naturally. While Jackson Taylor once again is a little more of that pocket presence. Nice little fake out there. So I don't know, man. I think they're both good. They both have their advantages, you know. I think Jackson Taylor to me has a little bit more of he's got a little bit more of that like just sophistication um and the best way I can describe it is he looks a little more wise in the pocket. You know, he looks very put together. The way his footwork is, the way he moves around and stuff, and he's just when he scrambles, he's always looking downstream. You know, he's always looking downfield, reading for a wide receiver. Even when it looks like he's about to take off, then he'll just throw out of nowhere, and you can tell, oh, he was looking the whole time. Um, while with Cash Herrera, that's not necessarily the case. I think a lot of times he's a little more focused on avoiding the pressure and then looks downstream once he avoids the pressure. So you know, there's bonuses to both of those. I think if we need a dual threat type quarterback that can scramble a little more and actually gain some yards on his feet, I think Cash Herrera can be that guy for us. If we want someone that can avoid the pressure and make the yardage, you know, if the play breaks down, but ultimately is looking downfield and is going to be passing it if it's a pass play, I think Jackson Taylor's probably the guy. Cash Herrera has a little more of that rocket arm. He can, you know, send it downfield quite a ways. And I think, you know, we kind of need that as a team. We kind of need some deeper passing. So that's a big bonus. And it's not like Jackson Taylor doesn't have that. You know, he still has the power to put it downstream, just not quite as much as Cash Herrera. But they're both so good and they both just have their advantages. So I really want to hear from you guys. Like, which one do you guys think fits our play style? Which one do you guys think would fit into our team play and our offense better? And just which one are you guys liking? Do you like what you see from Jackson Taylor with the accuracy, the pocket presence, the scramble ability and the precise throwing on the run? I mean, when he throws on the run, it looks very comfortable. When Cash Herrera throws on the run, it looks a little less comfortable to me, but he's got that rocket arm. He's got the little bit more legs where if he needs to take off, he's able to juke and spin guys and do a little more of that. Personally, I really like the look of Jackson Taylor, and I love all the interviews I've seen from him. He just seems like he's there to be a team guy, which I love. He seems like he's bought into Boise State. Cash Herrera to me seems like he's bought in to be a starter. And it's not that he doesn't want to be at Boise State or anything like that. I think he could be an amazing quarterback for us. But from the beginning, Jackson Taylor has been bought in at Boise. And he's been the guy where, as far as I understand, he's setting up group chats with all of the rookies, all of the recruits coming in to start to, get that chemistry going. And that type of leadership is something that I think really stands out in any team dynamic, and especially to these coaches. I think Danielson, especially, really likes that type of guy. And so I could see Jackson Taylor getting a little bit of a leg up with that. They're both phenomenal, but it's just a matter of which one is going to be able to step up in the offseason and throughout the year. Which one's going to develop and become that guy. I think one of them is really going to stand out with either their play or their mindset. And it's just going to be kind of who wants the most and who's able to develop into it the quickest. So once again, hit up in the comments. Let us know, which one do you guys prefer, Jackson Taylor or Cash Herrera? Who do you guys think could be the future quarterback of this team after this season when Madsen is gone, or potentially kick Madsen out of the spot? You never know. I mean, they say that it's going to be a competition this year. And if it is, that definitely could happen. With the type of talent we see here, these guys were trained by the same coach as Fernando Mendoza and Sayan from Ohio State. So, I mean, they come from an amazing pedigree. So I think we have two really good quarterbacks on our hands here. And I'm really excited to see who earns that spot. But once again, let me know who you guys think. And next, I think we're going to hit probably wide receivers. My plan is to go through the offensive schemes, talk about wide receivers, linemen, running backs, go over all of those, and then we'll switch to the defensive side and we'll talk about who defensively can step up. But stay tuned for more footage of the recruits and the transfers, and we'll see you guys next time. Go Broncos.